Hi guys, Sugar here with a new video, and this video is a meta-analysis before 10.0.5, and we are going to predict also the meta with the changes that have been confirmed more or less for 10.0.5. Unfortunately, I think since the AWC will start this week, I don't think they will do any changes until they have more data. So I guess the 10.0.5, the patch notes that you got it, like official ones, are going to be more or less definitive. They are not going to add anything, or maybe they could, but as a hotfix. But for now, we are like seeing that the 10.0.5 patch will be live as is. So now let's start right away by prefacing. We're going to discuss 3v3 first and foremost EU, and then a bit of NA, and the same for solo shuffle EU and NA. The meta is quite the same, really. It is not like Shadowlands, where in NA you have clear specs that are preferred, and then in EU you have other specs that are more preferred. For example, you will see that in the stats. You will see a bit more warlocks in NA, for example. But now let's talk about 3v3. Right now, the meta has shifted away, melee-wise, from a DH Havoc heavy spec reliance to a more diverse spec representation. Although you see here, Fury has fallen out of grace. I've personally played a game with my Fury Warrior, and I must say I can understand why. It just doesn't have the burst to actually complement with the consistent damage that you have. Consistent damage is nice for a Fury Warrior, but since that they did nerf Slaughterhouse to be effectively not usable with any one that has a MS effect, so every time there's an MS effect, it is going to override the rampage stacking, except if you have 12 stacks. So basically, you're going to hope that they are not going to do a rising sun kick for that time, and that's unproductive because a rising sun kick is just such a great ability to press as a Windwalker, for example. Same for DHs with their their death sweep, or also you're doing a more strike, or a pet from a hunter like a raptor pet that does apply the MS effect, or even a demonology warlock with their MS effect on their pet. So you have a lot of ways that your slaughterhouse is going to be negated, but not even that. The damage has been nerfed multiple times. Just it feels like Fury is just not okay. Basically, also the 4-set is close to useless. It is useful because execute does some damage, but again, it is not even your hardest hitting ability. It's like you're giving a increased critical strike chance on overpower instead of doing on moral strike on a 4-set. Yeah, the difference will not be that much, but as an arms warrior, you do get a MS crit chance and crit damage increase. So that by itself, the 2-set is like enormous, and the 4-set even more. So I think that's the whole reason why Fury Warriors are like falling out of grace. Outlaw, they are not played for a good, not really a good reason. I think the reason is more or less because it feels like people just prefer to play Assassination or Subtlety, but I saw a lot of outlaws actually do and prevail super well. I think it just is not as tanky as in Shadowlands, so people have to adapt. It is not in Shadowlands you could literally face tank the whole team and then evasion every 30 or 45 seconds, and that would be enough. But right now you couldn't because the PvP talent is nerfed. Like you before you had like increased stamina basically whenever you are in combat. Now it's gone. It's like a talent on the class tree, on the on the spec tree, and your brawler PvP talent basically gives you more damage on sinister strike, basically. So you will be more offensive though. You will have more chances to actually do insane damage, but your defensive prowess are like nullified. So the people that are actually playing Outlaw in Shadowlands and they now play in Dragonflight, they do feel like, I'm surviving the same kind of damage as an Assassination Rogue, why not play Assassination Rogue? And that's probably the whole difference. I think Outlaw is a very good disruptive spec. I just think it just lacks the competitivity between the other specs. I think people are going to watch Assassination, they're going to say, look, that's the clear S tier or A tier spec, and Subtlety is like the clear fan favorite spec. Then you have Outlaw being only the specialists, like Naj, for example, are going to play Outlaw because they do love Outlaw. While, for example, someone that is in between outlaw, assassination, or subtlety, they will not going to choose outlaw, because first and foremost they have to completely build around crit. Outlaw builds around crit, and assassination builds around. There's a few builds where you're playing full mastery, or few builds that are playing full haste, and subtlety plays full mastery. So often than not, they choose a build or a gear set around mastery, which is easier to switch between subtlety and assassination. And outlaw being full crit makes it a lot harder to actually switch on. If you're playing assassination and you want to play outlaw, you have to switch your whole gear set, your weapons, to actually be playing outlaw. So that's not a very easy barrier of entry for the people that are actually wanting to try outlaw. And Frost Decay is kind of the same problem. I think Frost is not that bad, especially in Soul Shuffle. In 3v3, it will be good with a Devastation like Evoker. They will do insane unhealable damage. But even Devastation is not that represented, so you will see that they will either play TSG or with a Devastation, or maybe with a Windwalker. But as a whole, they will just again suffer from the comparison with Unholy DKs being just that much stronger right now. A lot easier to play too. Frost Decay, although the mechanically buttons that you have to press is very easy, because pretty much you're pressing three buttons on a piano scale. Like every time it lights up, you have to press it, more or less. Like Obliterate lighting up, you press Obliterate. If a Rhyme proc comes and your Howling Blast is actually lighting up, you press Howling Blast. And the same for Frost Strike to actually dump some runic power, or Death Strike to actually sustain yourself. So that is quite easy compared to Unholy Decays, but the damage that Unholy Decays does is very free. You have pets, diseases, your own damage, you have burst rotations with your pets, you have a lot of buffs that can improve your pets as well. Your Forset is also very versatile, while for example Frost Decays, Obliterates will do more damage, but you have to connect to actually do Obliterate damage. And every time you're going to get disarmed, that's going to be very annoying for you to actually do damage. So especially versus a meta where Arms Warrior, Windwalkers, other annoying like specs that can actually disarm, like for example Assassination Rogues or Subtlety Rogues, you're going to suffer big time just because they have a disarm whenever you're doing a Pillago, for example. Enhancement Shamans, unfortunately, they just lack the versatility for 3v3, but also again comparison with elemental shamans, they are very, very lackluster, I would say. I play enhancement, I do like it. I have like found another build that is very fun, so I will discuss it on this channel. But as a whole, enhancement shaman is just going to have to need a buff on the defensive side of things. I think the damage is really fine. I think being Astral Shift usable when stunned would come a long way. It would make some things busted, like for example the PvP talent from Astral Shift, which makes you immune to physical damage. If it's castable while stunned, you're going to avoid a lot of damage from arms, from ferals and such. But I think that's the one thing that you have to do to make enhancement competitive without making busted OP like damage. Because right now it's either enhancement has the damage to actually kill someone in one go, or enhancement is just going to flop over. That's pretty much the scales. And that's the same for Retribution. They got like a buff for damage. Unfortunately, Retributions don't want that, and everyone don't really want that. It's not fun to get one-shotted. It's also not fun to keep on one-shotting, because you know if that's not working, you're going to get one-shotted next. So again, they're going to have a rise of popularity, but the main problem right now is, are they going to be steady even after a nerf? And for me, it is one of those specs that are going to get nerfed very soon, or at least changed to a way where you're not going to one-shot, but maybe they will just give you more mobility or defensives to actually like compensate. Windwalker still very strong, again on the ladders, very, very strong. I think again just lack of comps, that's why it's not as much played. And historically, monks are not one of the most played classes. It doesn't matter how good it is, people don't want to play monk. It is just one of those specs like Sovereignty Rogues where you're not going to see insane representation even whenever they are going to be very strong, because it is just a playstyle that is not suited for everyone. People prefer to play the Havocs, Unholy DKs, and Arms. The anomaly that I'm rightfully seeing is Feral Druids being that much represented. A fan favorite spec for Druids, but only Druids really. Even whenever it's very strong, normally Feral Druids are never going to be as played as right now. So there is a damage problem. I think it will be changed in 10.05. We will see how it will change towards that. Again, I think this expansion, Blizzard really tried their best to make Feral Druids very fun and very engaging and very good. And that's something that they are actually working on. You see there's a lot of changes for Feral Druids every patch, like damage-wise or like talent-wise, and that's very good. Again, I wish them to have a fun kit, but I think too much damage just makes it a bit too bursty, too sustainy, too annoying to deal with, and that's why right now you will see it at top 3 spec. You will see a lot of Feral Druids these times, and also Balance Druid being so weak just makes every Druid that is DPS go Feral, which is rightfully the case because it is just that much stronger. You will see that every spec that has like a very big scale of OP or not OP, they're going to swing in play rates. Like for example, fire mages, they're going to be very unrepresented because they do the same as an arcane mage, but with less mobility, less survivability. Arcane mages does insane damage. They can basically kill even without CDs someone that is very low HP because of the 2 legendaries that came from Shadowlands to Dragonflight, and that by itself will make it also very fun for the mages because they want to feel like they can kill at any point. And even whenever they don't have arcane surges or a lot of like clear casting procs, you still have your arcane barrage ready to actually kill someone even they go if they ever go 20% or lower. Basically a touch of karma from afar. So it's a very good spec, and you see that the difference is very high. While, for example, Frost mages, they are more specialized mages. Like, for example, Venruki, he just likes Frost mages. Even whenever they are bad, they're going to play it. And that's like the typical spec that is going to get played by the fan favorite Frost mages, which is good, but it doesn't indicate how good it is right now. So let's go back to the melees. You will see that the clear top 4, top 5 even, I would say, with Assassination, they are very, very good. Arms Warrior is now more represented because a lot of Furies went to Arms. So you also see, if you saw my videos like the past weeks, you saw a bit more Fury and then a bit less, and then like kind of the same as Arms, and then it become like, look, Fury is just bad, let's switch to Arms. And like in Soul Shuffle, you clearly see the top 1%, like the 1% of players are only 2,200 rating on a warrior, which is a fan favorite class for a lot of melee mains. And that is actually just an indication on how Fury is actually supposed to be. Fury is supposed to be a berserker that is going to be very annoying to deal with without coordination in Soul Shuffle, and it doesn't serve the purpose at all because they got nerfed or they got changed or the force set is not good enough, and all that combined just makes it that, look, Fury is not in a good place. So they will get changed probably in 10.05. They do get side grades, so they can go with one-handers. Now I don't know if with one-handers it's going to be very much stronger or not because they will lack the stats, but we will have to see and test and see for ourselves if Fury is going to be better or not. I think talent-wise, they will have to change something to the playstyles because it is not fun whenever it's OP, and whenever it's not OP, it just doesn't really work. It's like a stats check spec. If you see League of Legends, you have a lot of champions that are like pure statistics. Either they're going to be OP because their stats are there, they're going to be good regardless, or they're going to be very bad because they're basically statistics. If the stats are not correct, you're going to be bad, and that's a bit the same like Fury Warriors. It's very dimensional, so whenever it's good, it's going to be over the top good, and whenever it's bad, it's going to be even worse than a Frost DK, and that must indicate a lot of things. So my tier lists will be a lot different in 10.05 if this doesn't change. You will see also in the future. So again, if you want to check that out, please subscribe to the channel. It will be a quite long video, but I hope you understand or enjoy the information that you get. Again, ranged wise, Shadow Priest still played a lot because they have a lot of great comps. You can play with a warrior, you can play with a DK, with a DH. You can play with an assassination rogue. They can play with a retribution paladin. Sometimes I saw, because it's very annoying, because if they CC the healer and the retribution paladin is left alone to do the damage, often than not it will result to a one shot. But it's not the best comp, but it is playable. Shadow Priest can also just play with casters, which are very good at the moment, with elemental shamans and destruction warlocks, for example. Basically, shadow play with destruction or with demonology or with affliction. And elemental shaman or shadow priest is very, very annoying to deal with if you are like melees, like arms warrior, retribution paladin, for example. Arcane Mage is still very strong. I think it's the prime RMP spec. You will see that in like 3v3. Again, the representation in 3v3 is a bit scuffed because you have a lot of problems like with ladder popularity, I would say. Soul Shuffle is just that much interesting to play. But you will see that Arcane Mages is just more seen in RMPs, while Frost Mages are very good with a Destruction Warlock, for example, with a Demonology. You could also play Frost Mages with Shadow Priest or Frost with Devastation and have huge success. Hunters at the moment are very good in Soul Shuffle. I would say Beast Mastery is probably the best spec at this very moment. But in 3v3, it lacks the comp variety. You can work with a Retribution Paladin, which is Cupid, or you can play with a jungle, or you can play KFC. But right now, KFC is a bit iffy, but will be better in 10.05 because of the defensives on the Arms Warrior, for example. But it will lack the one essential thing, which is Craven Stratagem. I was someone that really hated the legendary because it was literally a legendary you take and you never take off, basically, because it's so good, it's so versatile and so annoying to deal with for a lot of specs. Arms Warrior doing Spear of Bastion and they just Craven Stratagem into, look, I'm going to run away, you're going to stay there with something, I don't know, with Trap or Tar Trap or whatever. And I'm going to be very annoying. That's pretty much how it works. And also, if you're an Affliction Warlock, you basically really have no real menace towards the Hunter. But now it's removed, and it makes it a lot harder to play. A lot of Hunters are just deciding, look, I'm not going to deal with it, I'm going to play DH, which is understandable. So you will see that there is just a lot less hunters right now because it's so squishy. But you will see in Soul Shuffle that whenever you see a Beast Mastery that is very high in rating, me myself, I'm 2.2k, 2.3k with my Destruction Warlock, and whenever I'm playing versus a BM Hunter, it is very annoying to deal with because again they do like good traps. People are like not breaking traps at that elo, and it just makes for a lot of pressure to the healer and to the DPS. So I think it is secretly very good, but it is just dying to a lot of specs like Havoc. Feral Druids actually killing pets like with just rips, which is insane. They should hotfix it because full bleed damage AoE wise on pets is a bit ridiculous, but whatever. Marksmanship Hunter will change in 10.05, so you will see a drop off in games. My prediction is if they are not going to give anything else instead of double tap, it is going to be even less played than Fire Mage, and that is my prediction. But we'll see. Healers, Restoration, Preservation are the kings. Then you have like Restoration, Shaman with Discipline Priest. And in this fast meta, depending on the comps you're playing, if you're playing versus a lot of Cleaves, Holy Paladin is going to be very good. If you're playing versus a lot of casters, Holy Paladin is going to be very bad. So it's very average. It's going to be very much a coin toss. If you're playing if you are an Elemental Shaman and you're playing with a Shadow Priest and you face a Holy Paladin, you're basically like, that is my meal, I'm going to destroy you, man. I don't care if you're going to pop, that doesn't work. I don't care if you're going to sacrifice, I'm going to switch onto you and you're going to die. Oh, you're bubbling, Mass Dispel. So you see that Holy Paladins have difficulties to survive versus casters. Excuse me, I'm a bit sick. They have a bit of difficulties to survive versus casters, which makes it a bit average in, I would say, 3v3. In Soul Shuffle it can work because, again, Cleaves are very prevalent. and you will just see a lot less Holy Paladins at higher level. Although there's a few Holy Paladins mains, again at very high level, that are playing insanely well, but they're just like Holy Paladin mains. They are very good. You cannot compare with the top 0.1%. You have to compare it between the 10% and the 1%, because that's like the competitive side of things, and then you have like the less competitives that are trying to climb, like 20%, 30%, 40%, like you see on the sheet. Those are like the ones that are going to climb if they're going to keep on playing, and this is like the competitive bracket, and here are like the best of the best, like the 1%. So you cannot really compare or balance on the 1% because it's very difficult. But anyways, that's more or less my meta analysis for EU on 3v3. Let's see on NA. You have a lot more games on NA. I don't know why, because normally EU has a wider reach, but for some reason you have a lot more games on NA. I don't know if it's tracking more games or not. But basically the top 4, the top 5, the top 6 isn't changeable, but you will see that in NA you will see a lot less assassination rogues, while you will see more retribution paladins. People just do like cleaves. You will see also a lot more warlocks in NA, and a lot of shadow priests in NA, because they do like to play with rogues, they do like to play with arms warrior, for example, with DKs, so they have a lot more comps to play with. And then you have elemental shaman, destruction warlock, demonology warlock being very close to each other. Again, you will see a bit more variety on these specs, and for some reason NA just plays a lot less frost mages, which is surprising to me, but I mean, maybe just people prefer to play other specs, like for example warlocks, while in EU you do see more frost mages. The one thing that you can also see is you have a lot of assassination rogues, and then you have a lot less abilities and outlaws. For a reason or something else, people just prefer to play assassination compared to subtlety. You have a lot less one tricks subtlety wise, or for example Was on EU just likes to play subtlety, right? So this is pretty much my analysis. You also see a lot more enhancement shamans because you have a lot more one tricks on hands in NA. Healing wise, I think it's quite the same. Resto Druid, Preservation Evokers are top 2, and then you have like Restoration Shaman, probably top 3, top 4 with Disc Priest, especially with Tempo top 5 will have a lot of great Disc Priest changes, which is insane. Holy Paladin, also a lot of one tricks too, and it does work because again you have a lot more cleaves and a lot less casters, although the big problem is Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest with fast MD is going to destroy your chances to win most of the time as a Holy Paladin, and you will face a lot of difficulties. Holy Priest is like a sleeper. I think it's going to be very strong in 3v3, depending on if the cleaves are going to give you a hard time or not. I think Holy Priest, with the buffs that they got for their healing and throughput, I think it's a close like 5th healer, like compared to a Holy Paladin. I think Holy Priest is better for me. But again, that just depends on who you're facing. If you're facing casters, I think it's better to play Holy Priest. If you're playing versus melees, Holy Paladin will take the cake. So now let's talk about Solo Shuffle. And on EU, I'm going to take the top 50. And you see that, again, a lot of melees, but you have some casters that are very high, like for example arcane mages, elemental shamans. You have big mechs, again a very good survival hunter. You have a lot of retribution paladins now, since the buffs, they can just one-shot people, so they do climb. Shadow Priest still very high. You have still a lot of specs that are just not played anymore because they just think that they are like nerfed, so they don't play. But like Windwalkers, again, you have a lot of Windwalkers, a lot of DHs, a lot of again elemental shamans, ferals. You have a lot of like the meta specs at the top because it is just that much stronger. But if you want to take a look to the representation at 2100 plus, which is probably the stats that are more interesting for you guys, or even 1800, but I feel like there's too many like sample size, I would say, to actually have an idea on the meta, because 1800 is quite easy to get as a DPS. You just have to queue a lot and you will get it. For a healer, it's a bit difficult because it's a 1v1. You have to take elo from someone to actually climb, while DPSs can take elo from multiple DPSs. But anyways, you will see that 2100 you will see a lot of Havocs, a lot of DKs, a lot of Windwalkers, Assassination Rogues, Retribution Paladin took the place of an Arms Warrior, for example, and still a lot of Ferals. I feel like there is too many Ferals for it to be balanced. I just think it's not a popular spec for everyone. It is a very difficult spec to play, and there is a reason why there is so many Feral Druids right now. It is because it is so strong. Fury Warriors being so low just means that they either didn't play since the nerfs, or they are actively playing and they could climb. But my guess is a lot of people are switching from Fury to Arms, and they are like parking their Fury Warriors at a higher rating, because again, why would you play if you feel like they're like just that much worse? Again, Outlaws very less represented in EU, and you can see also in US it's kind of the same, really. 31 Outlaw Rogues. The top 4, top 5, top 6, pretty much the same classes. You will see a bit less Assassination Rogues in NA, but I think it's just because of preference. There's just a lot less Rogues in NA. And ranged wise, you still have the top 4 being Shadow Priest, Demonology Warlock, Elemental Shaman, and Destruction Warlock. I think Demonology Warlock is one of those sleeper specs that, since the nerfs, are actually getting a lot of plays. But again, Tyrants getting CC'd is your biggest problem, but you can still win without your Tyrant doing a lot of damage, because you have a lot of tools to do pressure. Now we will have to see if it's going to stay like this, because Destruction Warlock is going to get better and better with patches, and it could overtake really soon. Hunters, again, after the changes from 10.0.5, they will have a drop off, or they will just not play and stay at there. And there's a reason why it's very difficult to have great stats here, because people can just park at 2400 and say, look, I got my rating, I'm just going to play another spec or another class, or wait for buffs. That's the difficult part. You will see a lot of Disc Priests, you will see a lot of Restoration Druids, Evokers being played a lot is still a thing. And then you have, again, Holy Priest being so little represented. You will see in 2400 only 33 Holy Priest. It is better than previously, but you have also a bit of inflation, so you have to look for that all as well. But that is pretty much the meta for Solo Shuffle. Tanks wise, you have 1 Blood DK at 2400, which is insane. I wouldn't know how he got that, but he got that. And Brewmaster, again, the same one that is over 2400. US wise, you have 1 Protection Paladin, but they are competing versus themselves. So pretty much, if someone is 2400, someone is going to be 2k, because they're taking each other's elo. And the same for the Brewmaster. I think it is just a surprising spec for a lot of people, but me myself, I never faced one, so I don't know how strong it is actually on the meta. But anyways, I hope you guys learned something today. I want to do also a video in 10.0.5 about RBGs. I will do a tier list about RBGs. Me myself, I'm trying to actually gather a lot more games in RBGs, a lot more game feel, so I can actually talk about it. Right now, I'm playing too much Solo Shuffle, enjoying too much my time to not look in LFG to actually play in RBGs, but I will try to do that with my guild, and I will try to make a tier list for that, but also discuss about the meta currently in RPGs. Again, thank you for everyone for the support on my videos. It is actually very massive. I really enjoy people actually enjoying my videos. It is really fulfilling, and of course, if I can do something better, please let me know. I think it's a bit too late to say in the video, but you have timestamps, so you can just jump to a part to another. But anyways, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and be sure to stay safe. We will catch each other very soon in the next video. Bye.